The spotlight cuts. 15,000 voices fall silent. Elvis Presley stops mid-verse, his hand trembling as it reaches toward an old man in the front row. The microphone drops. The king of rock and roll is on his knees, tears streaming down his face, holding something small wrapped in worn paper. The band stands frozen. The crowd holds its breath. Nobody knows what's happening. Nobody understands why the greatest showman alive just shattered his own performance. But in 3 minutes, you'll know why this moment changed music history forever. Las Vegas, August 1974. The International Hotel. Night 3 of Elvis's month-long residency. The room packed wall-to-wall with fans who'd traveled from every corner of America, some mortgaging their homes just to see him. The air thick with anticipation, cigarette smoke curling under stage lights that could melt steel. Elvis's white jumpsuit catching every beam, transforming him into something more than human, less than God. He's 40 minutes into the show. Suspicious Minds just ended. The crowd's still roaring. Elvis catches his breath, wipes his forehead, reaches for water. Standard rhythm. Practice movements. He's done this 1,000 times. The band knows every cue, every pause, every moment when he'll spin or drop to one knee or point at a screaming fan. This is the machine. This is the show. This is Vegas Elvis. But in the front row, something's different. An elderly man. 97 years old. Face carved by decades, hands shaking not from age but from emotion. He's clutching something wrapped in newspaper. Not fancy gift wrap. Not a letter in an envelope. Just plain newspaper, yellowed at the edges, held together with string that's been tied and retied so many times it's worn smooth. His wife sitting beside him, her hand on his arm, steadying him. She knows what's about to happen. She's been preparing for this moment for 6 months. Subscribe now because what happens in the next 60 seconds will make you believe in the power of human connection. Elvis starts talking to the crowd. His usual between-song banter. Thanking them for coming. Making jokes about his weight. Self-deprecating humor that makes 15,000 people feel like they're in his living room. But his eyes keep drifting to the old man. Something about him. Something in the way he's sitting there, not screaming like the others, not holding up signs or throwing underwear. Just sitting. Waiting. Holding that package like it's the last thing he'll ever hold. Then the old man stands. Slowly. Painfully. His wife tries to help but he waves her off. This is something he needs to do alone. The security guards move forward. This is protocol. You don't approach the king. You don't break the invisible barrier between stage and audience. But Elvis raises his hand. Stop. Let him. The guards freeze. The crowd notices. The chatter dies. Even the band senses something's shifted. The drummer holds his sticks mid-air. The bassist's fingers hover over strings. The backup singers exchange glances. The old man's voice cracks when he speaks. Barely audible. Mr. Presley. Not Elvis. Not the king. Mr. Presley. Formal. Respectful. The way men from his generation addressed anyone they considered greater than themselves. Elvis walks to the edge of the stage. Gets down on one knee. Brings himself to eye level with this 97-year-old man who's trembling like a leaf in winter. Yes, sir? Elvis says. Not to the microphone. Not to the crowd. Just to him. Person to person. Man to man. The old man extends the package. His hands shaking so badly his wife has to help steady them. This belonged to my son, he says. Each word costs him everything. He never got to give it to you himself. Elvis's face changes. The showman disappears. The mask cracks. Something real emerges. He died in Vietnam. The old man continues. April 1968. He was 19. He loved your music more than anything in this world. He'd save his allowance to buy your records. Knew every word to every song. His mama and we'd hear him singing in his room, pretending he was you, holding a broom handle like a microphone. The arena has become a church. 15,000 people, and you could hear a pin drop. Before he shipped out. The old man's voice breaks completely now. He bought this for you. Wrapped it himself. Wrote your name on it. Said he was going to find a way to get it to you when he came home. Said he was going to see you perform live and hand it to you personally. Tears streaming down weathered cheeks. But he never came home. Elvis's hand reaches out. Takes the package. Holds it like it's made of glass. Like it's the most precious thing he's ever touched. His throat working, trying to swallow past something too big to swallow. We kept it all these years, the old man says. His mama passed 2 years ago. Before she went, she made me promise I'd give it to you. Said our boy deserved to keep his word, even if he couldn't do it himself. Elvis Presley, the man who'd performed for presidents and kings, the man who'd sung to millions, slowly unwraps the newspaper with trembling fingers. Inside, a simple silver bracelet. Nothing expensive. Nothing fancy. Something a 19-year-old kid could afford on a soldier's pay. Engraved on the inside. To the King, from Private James Morrison, 1968. Elvis stops breathing. The world stops spinning. Every eye in that arena witnesses something nobody expected. The king of rock and roll, the man who built an empire on confidence and swagger, puts his face in his hands and weeps. Not stage tears. Not performance emotion. Real, raw, devastating grief for a boy he never met, a boy who died in a jungle 10,000 miles away, a boy whose last dream was to shake his hand. The silence stretches. Uncomfortable. Profound. The kind of silence that demands something happen, that can't sustain itself. Then Elvis does something no one sees coming. He takes off his own necklace. The one he's worn for years. A gold medallion given to him by his mother before she died. His most precious possession. And he places it around the old man's neck. Sir? Elvis's voice barely works. Your son was brave. Braver than I'll ever be. This belonged to my mama. She gave it to me the day I left Memphis for the first time. Told me to wear it whenever I needed to remember where I came from. I want you to have it. Because your son reminded me tonight why I do this. Why any of this matters. But here's where the story becomes something else entirely. Something nobody in that arena will ever forget. Elvis turns to the band. Anybody know how great thou art? The piano player nods. The drummer shifts his grip. The backup singers move forward. It's not on the set list. It's a gospel song, not a Vegas number. But Elvis sits down on the edge of the stage, his legs dangling over, the old man standing right in front of him, and he begins to sing. Not perform. Sing. There's a difference. Performance is what you do for an audience. Singing is what you do for your soul. And in this moment, Elvis is singing for a dead boy he never met, for a father who kept a promise, for a mother who made her husband swear an oath on her deathbed, for everyone who ever loved someone they lost too soon. His voice cracks on the first verse. The old man is crying. His wife is crying. The woman next to them is crying. Then the woman behind them. Then the whole row. Then the whole section. Then 15,000 people are crying together, strangers sharing grief, sharing loss, sharing the terrible beauty of being human and mortal and connected by invisible threads of pain and love. By the second verse, people are singing with him. Quietly at first, then louder. By the third verse, the entire arena is one voice, one song, one moment of collective catharsis. The bass player has tears on his cheeks. The backup singers aren't even trying to hide it. A security guard by the stage has his hand over his heart. The waitresses have stopped serving. The bartenders have stopped pouring. Everybody, everything, has stopped to witness this. When the song ends, Elvis stands, helps the old man back to his seat, makes sure he's comfortable, kisses the top of his head the way you'd kiss a father. Then he turns to the crowd and says something nobody expects. I want you all to understand something. I'm just a singer. I shake my hips and people scream. But that man right there, and his son, they're the real heroes. They're why we have the freedom to be here tonight. They're why I get to stand on this stage. They're why any of this is possible. So before we go any further, I want every person in this room to stand up and give him the applause he deserves. 15,000 people rise as one. The ovation lasts 7 minutes. The old man tries to sit, but people won't let him. They need this. They need to honor something bigger than entertainment, bigger than rock and roll, bigger than Elvis himself. Share this video if you believe music has the power to heal even the deepest wounds. The show goes on. Eventually. But it's different now. Elvis is different. Between every song, he tells stories about his own father, about growing up poor, about what it means to lose someone. The setlist gets thrown out. He plays what he feels, songs his mama used to sing, songs from his church days, songs that matter more than Vegas glitz. After the show, backstage, Elvis asks his manager to find the old man. Brings him and his wife back to his dressing room. They sit for 2 hours. Elvis doesn't let anyone interrupt. No press. No photos. No handlers. Just 3 people sharing stories about people they loved and lost. The old man tells Elvis about James. How he loved baseball. How he wanted to be a teacher. How he wrote letters home from Vietnam describing the children he met. How he hoped to return someday and build schools. Elvis listens. Really listens. Not the way famous people listen while waiting for their turn to talk. He absorbs every word like scripture. And when the old man is done, Elvis makes a promise. I'm going to make sure your son is remembered, he says. I'm going to wear this bracelet every time I perform. And I'm going to tell his story. Not to make myself look good, but because the world needs to know that boys like James existed. That they mattered. That they still matter. And he keeps that promise. For the rest of his career, during every show, Elvis wears the bracelet. Sometimes he touches it between songs, a small gesture most people miss. But those who know, they see it. They understand. The bracelet becomes something more than jewelry. It becomes a talisman. A reminder. A connection to something pure in a world that's often anything but. The story spreads. Newspapers pick it up. Elvis honors fallen soldier. But they get it wrong. They make it about Elvis being generous, Elvis being kind, Elvis the benevolent star. They miss the point entirely. This wasn't about Elvis at all. This was about a father keeping a promise. About a dead boy's dream fulfilled. About the invisible threads that connect us all, stranger to stranger, generation to generation. Years later, after Elvis himself is gone, the bracelet is found among his most treasured possessions. Not in a safe. Not locked away. In a simple wooden box on his nightstand, along with his mother's Bible and a photo of his daughter. The things that mattered most. The old man lived 4 more years. At his funeral, his wife requested one song. How Great Thou Art. The Elvis version. Played on an old record player, scratchy and worn from being played too many times. When the song ended, she took off the medallion Elvis had given her husband and placed it in the casket. So you can give it back to him, she whispered. So you can tell him thank you. But here's the part that makes this story complete. The part that proves why that night in 1974 mattered more than anyone knew. James Morrison's name is now engraved on a memorial wall in Memphis. Not because he was famous. Not because he knew Elvis. But because Elvis's foundation, established after his death, tracks down the stories of forgotten soldiers and makes sure they're remembered. Hundreds of names. Hundreds of stories. All because one night, an old man brought a gift wrapped in newspaper, and the king of rock and roll remembered what it meant to be human. The bracelet now sits in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Next to it, a placard tells James's story. Tells his father's story. Tells the story of a promise kept across death, across time, across the impossible distance between a fan and a star. Museum visitors stop there longer than anywhere else. They read the story. They cry. They take photos not because it's cool, but because it's real. Because it reminds them that beneath all the noise, all the fame, all the mythology, There was a man named Elvis who understood that his gift wasn't his voice or his hips or his face. His gift was his ability to make people feel seen, feel heard, feel like they mattered. That's why that night in Vegas changed everything. Not because Elvis was generous. Generous is easy when you're rich. But because Elvis understood something most people never learn, that every person carries a story, every story deserves to be honored, and sometimes the most important thing you can do is stop the show, drop the act, and simply be present for someone else's grief. The newspaper clipping announcing James's death is also in that display case. It's small. Just a few lines. Local boy dies in Vietnam. No details. No story. Just another name in a long list of names. But next to it, in Elvis's handwriting, on hotel stationery from that night in 1974, is a note. James Morrison loved music. He loved his country. He loved his family. He deserved more than a few lines in a newspaper. He deserved to be remembered. We all do. That's the legacy. Not the gold records or the sold-out shows or the movies or the mansion. The legacy is a night when the king got off his throne, put on a dead boy's bracelet, and reminded 15,000 people that beneath all the spectacle, beneath all the glitter and lights, we're all just human beings trying to honor the ones we've lost. Subscribe and share this story. Let others know that kindness and compassion never go out of style. Because in a world that often forgets, stories like this remind us what truly matters: connection, humanity, and the promises we keep even when it costs us everything.